up, Dirt Tracks fans? Luke and Roxy here, bringing you guys another walk around, but this time something I think you're really going to like, something we haven't done a lot of this year. It is an ATV, and I know you guys are begging for more ATV content, so we thought we'd bring you some. Before I go any further though, make sure you stick around to the end of this video. I'll have a question for you guys to answer, and anybody who answers the question will randomly pick one of you, and you'll win a Dirt Track swag pack, so make sure you stick around to the very end. So what do we have for you today? Well, today we have Polaris's new Sportsman XP 1000 Ultimate Trail Edition. Now, Polaris's Sportsman lineup is vast. There's a lot of different models, and it's hard to kind of pick them apart and find out what does each name mean. Obviously, you know, a high lifter makes sense. You understand that. But the base Sportsman is sort of their hunt edition. It's kind of just, they don't really have just a base Sportsman 1000 XP. Anyway, this is the Ultimate Trail Edition. It kind of fits into that almost sort of more base level, even though it does have some extra upgrades and stuff. But anyway, what is it? What makes it special, and what do we think so far? We just got this off the truck, so I haven't had a chance to ride it anywhere from more than just where it got dropped off the truck to here in this field. But I got to say already, the motor's super impressive. Okay, so let's start with just my impressions of how it looks. Now, Polaris has always had, all of their ATVs, I think, look tough. They've always been aggressive with facet eye styling, lots of hard angles. I think they look great. I like the headlight pod and the way it integrates with the rest of the vehicle in terms of lines. They just are tough looking ATVs. Anybody who thinks that they're not doesn't know what a tough looking ATV looks like. And they've done a great job with this Ultimate Trail Edition by adding in their bumpers front and rear. And the bumpers are Polaris, you know, accessories that are factory installed on this model, and they look fantastic too. I just love how this all fits together. The Ultimate Trail Edition also comes with a winch with synthetic cable, which is integrated under here. You know, you can almost barely see it because of this bumper, but it's kind of nice that that comes with that, with the awesome Polaris winch control on your handlebars. That's like right integrated into your switch cluster. Looks amazing and works great. From the front, you can see that it's got interesting looking headlights. It's because everything on the front of this vehicle is LED. So there's like projector LED headlights in here. They look awesome. And then down in the lower section as well is all LED headlights with accent lighting here. There's accent lighting up here in the pod, and there's accent lighting in the tail lights as well. It just looks great. I'm going to turn the key on. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because it's pretty bright out here, but you know, the accent lighting just looks so cool. Polaris does a great job with that, and it really sets the vehicle apart from other vehicles on the trail when you see them coming down the trail. I will say this, a lot of vehicles today are starting to look very similar. ATVs have all kind of taken on the same basic look, and I would argue that Polaris started that look, but anyway, that's another story for another day. This vehicle comes, as I said, with the bumpers, the winch. It comes with a cut and sew seat. I'm not 100% sold on cut and sew seats. I find sometimes the seams absorb water, and when you sit on them, the water can come out through the seam, but that's a small point to make. They look really nice. Comes with, I think that's all the stuff it comes with that's extra. Pretty sure. The rest of the stuff is kind of standard Sportsman stuff. And Sportsmans have a lot of really great stuff. We'll start with the power package. So this is, I better get this right. You guys are always on me for proper information. A 952cc parallel twin that makes 90 horsepower, obviously delivers power to the wheels through a CVT transmission. But 90 horsepower is a lot of horsepower for an ATV these days. And just the little bit of riding I've done with this one, you got to be careful not to pull wheelies. It used to be that you had to make yourself pull a wheelie. Now you got to make yourself not pull a wheelie. It's got that much power. And Polaris does power great. They also do great drive lines. So this has got their on-demand true four-wheel drive system up here on the handlebars. It's got turf mode. It's just got a lot of really great features in terms of driveline stuff that have been proven for decades. You don't have to worry about the driveline on this vehicle at all. It's running the power through a set of 27-inch Duro tires on 14-inch aluminum rims. They're not beadlocks. A lot of ATVs don't come with beadlocks, but they're an aggressive tread pattern. They look like a Bighorn, kind of, in my opinion. They're very similar to a Maxxis Bighorn, but it's a good all-round tire package. They're not a square setup, so you've got wider in the back than the front. Again, fairly typical of an ATV, but something to consider when you do go to buy new wheels and tires for your ATV. You can't just buy a set of 4. I mean, you can, but to match what's already there, you can't. Polaris does great running boards. Their running boards are always very well, or protect you from mud and water really, really well. while also giving you a lot of grippy surfaces. I especially like this surface right here along the outside of the running board for getting in and out. It's not slippery, so you're never going to step on here and slip off, and that's kind of nice. This is a very comfortable ATV to sit on. You know, that's an important thing. I think most ATVs today are fairly comfortable, but this one is exceptionally comfortable. Also of note that I find that's interesting is that Polaris has been making this platform for a long time, since about 2008. This platform has the engine turned sideways with the clutches running this way instead of this way. So you can actually see the clutches underneath here are turned sideways. And that's something they did way, way back. It was revolutionary at the time, and they're still doing it because it actually works great. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that they've held on to that design for so long. Let's talk about suspension real quick. You've got, again, notes, it's pink. How do you like that? 9 inches of front travel and 10.25 inches of rear travel. They're all just basic gas charged preload adjustable shocks, nothing special in that department. You've got about 12 inches of ground clearance, which is really, really good. But out back, you've got what's called rolled IRS. And so Polaris started doing this years ago on snowmobiles, and they do it on ATVs and side-by-sides as well. But basically, it's where the rear suspension arms are sort of canted inwards, and when it goes through its travel, it integrates or it interfaces with the bump in such a way that stops the vehicle from kicking. And it works really well. It's always worked really well, and they've continued to use it, along with double A-arms front and rear that are arched all the way around, so you get extra width of ground clearance underneath the vehicle, and that's always a great feature. Sway bars as well on the front. So you don't get one on the, sway bars on the rear, not the front. So you don't get one on the front, but that's okay. They've got a beefy one on the back that does a great job. Capacities for this vehicle, you can tow 1,500 pounds, and total rack capacity is 360 pounds. I believe it's 240 on the back and 120 up front. But we got to talk more about the racks, because there's stuff going on here that's pretty interesting. These are plastic racks, but they are metal reinforced. So there's metal underneath these racks to help them get strength, especially the rear here has got metal underneath it. There's all kinds of lock and ride points basically everywhere all over the racks and these side pieces here. So if you buy like a gun boot, it's going to mount here on your ATV. But these little extensions are nice. They give you a whole bunch more tie down points, and they're also super durable, but a bunch of extra tie down points, but also a bunch of lock and ride points also. Now, here is the only problem that I see with how Polaris has done storage on this vehicle. They've done a great job with storage. I think it's 6 gallons of storage. It's a lot. Instead of having the trunk down here like it used to be under the tail light to get to your rear storage, it's now here under the rack, and it's got a rubber seal on it. Would I trust it to be waterproof? Probably not, but it'll definitely be more water resistant and dust resistant as well, since it's got the rubber seal. But the problem with this is, and it's a small point, if you have stuff on your rack, you can't get into this compartment without taking it all off. So let's say you're loaded up for like a big tour, and you've got your tire repair kit in here. You've got stuff on the back, maybe all your lock and ride, bins and stuff up here. If you need to get to your tire repair kit that's stored in here, you have to take all your lock and ride stuff off. Fortunately, that's not hard to do, but that is something to think about. And it's something interesting, I think, the way Polaris does their storage, because the front area storage, which is huge, is also under the rack. So you got lots of space in here. I love how they have utilized every small aspect. Everything in here that you could possibly want gets utilized in this space. There's also, you'll notice, quarter turn fasteners right here and here that allows you to take this lock and ride bin out and access stuff underneath, like your rad, which is absolutely awesome. Let's do that just for fun. So you can actually get in to your battery's right here, obviously. So if you need to boost or whatever you need to do, take your battery out for maintenance. But you can get to all kinds of stuff that is really hard to get to on other vehicles. Your fuse box is here. Your rad is right here. So you can actually kind of get in with like a hose to clean your rad out a lot easier than you might on other on other ATVs. Pretty impressive, pretty neat feature, actually, when you think about it, that Polaris just decided, hey, we can do this. We can make this rack removable easily, and they did. So it's them thinking about how you use your vehicle. But as I said before, if you have anything strapped to the rack on the front, I guess it doesn't have to come off now that I'm looking at it, because the whole rack moves. I wouldn't want to hang it like this with a whole bunch of weight on it. I don't know, maybe the front's not so bad. Maybe the front would work. With 120 pounds of stuff, that would be heavy, but you know, I guess the front's a little better, a little more accessible than the back in that respect. It does look nice though. The front has a serious, obvious lack of tie-down points in here though. You've got these spots here and then two lock and ride areas here, a couple tie-down points on here, but really you're pretty limited on the front. You're also limited with weight on the front. You're not supposed to load the front up a whole lot anyway, so I guess that's probably why they did it. One interesting note here on the back rack that I didn't mention before, Polaris has started doing this on a lot of their vehicles, but there's actually bucket circles for holding like a 5-gallon bucket molded right into the rack. So if you put a 5-gallon bucket for feed or whatever on here and then strap it down, the bottom won't slide around and have it fall off. So that's the problem with trying to carry buckets on a flat rack, right? Is you can tie them down from the top all you want, but if the bottom slips, you're kind of screwed. Here you've got 3 of them and they can't slip, so you can tie a 5-gallon pail down and it won't go anywhere. That's a nice consideration. It's easy for them to do, to just mold it in here and make it possible. Maybe you'll never use it, but for those of you who will, it's right there. Rear bumper, I like how this rear bumper works. This is, again, a Polaris, you know, factory installed aftermarket, whatever bumper from Polaris. But I like how it goes all the way down here and gives you like realistic protection. It's not just like a fancy bolt-on bumper that really doesn't do anything. It actually gives you some crash protection, some bumping into tree protection. That's really cool, and Polaris does a nice job. The coating is, you know, durable. It's almost like a rubberized, I guess, undercoating or like a spray and bed liner. I don't know. Time would tell whether that would start to rust. Probably it would after a while, but it's a really nice looking bumper regardless. And you've got an 1.25 inch hitch receiver back here that can tow up to 1,500 pounds. It's integrated with chain loops for towing whatever you got to tow. That's kind of nice too. I mentioned before the shocks are all preload adjustable, so when you do load this thing up or you are going to haul heavy weight, you just use the snail cam adjuster and crank up your springs. And that helps you not squat too much in the back. Now, as far as like technology and features, something newer for Polaris is what they're calling multi-select EPS. So there's actually 3 separate settings for your power steering. Now, I know that sounds a lot like somebody else's tri-mode DPS because it is a lot like it. And it's accessed, I haven't played with this yet. As I said, this is just a walk around, we just got it, but it's accessed through here somehow, as you can adjust the levels for your power steering. I kind of like that. I've always liked tri-mode DPS on a Can-Am. Everybody has a different setting they want and a different setting for a different scenario. If you're rock crawling, you probably want it on high, but if you're going to be running fast fire roads, you might want to flip it over to low. So that's nice to have that option. Polaris has never had that option before, but they do now. This pod has their more basic gauge in it on the Trail edition like this one. You can also get the Ride Command edition that comes with a full-size 7-inch display in here with GPS and the whole 9 yards. I didn't look at the pricing increase to go to that model. It's probably $1,500 or something like that. It's a lot of money, but my opinion, Ride Command is always worth it. I love that screen. I love how it works. You know, you got your shiftable 4x4 right here. You've got your winch controller right here with your regular switch cluster Polaris has been using for 100 years over here. Also on this gauge pod, you've got your multiple drive modes. So this is a drive-by-wire throttle. Polaris does it better than anybody in my opinion. This is drive-by-wire. There's no cable, you can see it, that there's no cable here. However, it feels like a cable throttle. It feels like it here when you push on it, and it feels like it in terms of how power is delivered. It's an absolutely fantastic system. It's probably one of the only drive-by-wire systems on the market that I have zero complaints about. And it offers you the ability to have work, standard, and performance modes. And I need to be clear about this. Those are important. This is a 90 horsepower ATV. This thing has tons of power. When you want to be precise with your power, you want to crawl, you want to haul some stuff on your lawn, whatever, you put it in work mode and you're not going to have problems spinning the tires or being jerky if you're hauling stuff, you know, buckets full of feed or whatever, you don't want to spill it. Work mode is what you want to use. It's great. Now, standard mode is what you're probably going to ride in most of the time because it smooths out your throttle inputs. It smooths out the throttle curve, makes it a lot more mellow to ride, but it also gives you full power when you want it. I was pulling wheelies on the way over here in standard mode, so there's no lack of power. It just makes it a little bit more manageable. And then if you really want to get on it and you want that abrupt power, immediate wheel spin, throw it in performance mode, you're going to get that. I rarely use performance mode, but it's nice to have those options. Certainly nice to have the work mode for a vehicle with this much power. Sportsman 570 or 450, not so important. 1,000 with 90 horsepower, very important. Also, Polaris has included some nice things up in here in the gauge pod as well. You've got a 12-volt DC outlet for charging whatever you might want to charge, GPS or your phone. You can put in one of those USB adapters in here and charge anything. And then they've also got a 12-volt outlet for using something like a battery tender. You should be using a battery tender if you're leaving your vehicle unattended for a long period of time in the winter, or if you're using it at the cottage and you leave it at the cottage and go home for a couple weeks, throw it on a battery tender. These smaller off-road power sports vehicle batteries are kind of junk. They're always going flat. So leaving on a battery tender will get you a lot more life out of your little battery in these things. And you need it because this is a big motor to spin on, to spin the starter motor and crank it over. You need that power. You don't want your battery going dead. The other thing that people don't know about this port though is you can buy an adapter and this port will actually provide you 12-volt power the other way. So you can power like a GPS or whatever through this port. There's an adapter you can get that has 2 USB plugs on the end, and you can power other stuff through it. So you actually have more options in terms of power outlets up here on the dash. I guess the last couple things to talk about: the transmission, high-low, neutral, reverse, and park-in transmission. It is not gated. That's one thing for plowing that I think ATVs and side-by-sides should all have, is a gated transmission from low to reverse. So if you do want to plow with this, you're going to have to remember that if you go too far, you're in high. If you go too far, you're in park. It's a small point, but it does make plowing more difficult. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a vehicle designed specifically to plow. There are other models that do that better, but something to think about. The other thing that I want to point out is it has a cup holder. So you can put your big gulp in there and just go hit the trails and expect it not to splash all over your right leg and just spill all over your vehicle. But there is a cup holder right there if you choose to bring yourself, I don't know, Diet Pepsi along the trail ride with you if you want. That's really all I have to say about this thing. I've always been impressed with the Sportsman, any model of the Sportsman, including even the 450s, the little ones. Polaris has always done a great job with these. They always ride really well. They handle excellent. They're very well built. They have a good reputation for longevity and durability. They've been around for decades, so you can trust that aspect of it. And they just look super great. So, this is not a cheap ATV. This is an expensive ATV. Before you start complaining about the price of it, just remember you don't have to buy a 1000. No one's forcing you to do that. They have other models. If you don't like the price of this, you can buy a 570, you can buy an 850, you can buy a 450. So I don't want to hear complaints about, oh, it's so expensive, how can I do that? This sucks. It doesn't suck. This is for the guy who wants everything, who wants the best of the best. And if that's you, you get this. If that's not you, there's other models that are pretty much equally as nice that cost a lot less. So enough said about that. Now, I did mention that if you stick around to the end of this test ride, that you could win a prize pack. So the question I think you guys need to answer for me, or I want to hear your opinions on, is what do you think about Polaris's lineup in terms of ATVs? It's considerably smaller than their side-by-side lineup. And the side-by-side lineup continues to grow, whereas the ATV lineup sort of continues to shrink. The market's going that way. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Obviously, people who love ATVs are going to say bad thing, and people who love side-by-sides are going to say they don't really care. But I just wonder, is the market... Here's the question. This is a good question. This is the one I want you to answer. Is the ATV segment of the market shrinking because vehicle options are shrinking, or are vehicle options shrinking because the market for ATVs is shrinking? Let me know what your opinions are on that. I know I have mine. I want to hear what yours are. So before we go any further, before I end this thing and shut her all down, you need to hear it run. I know that. It's super important. That's one thing I'll say about this motor. It sounds wicked. It's got an awesome exhaust note. So I'm going to fire it up for you so you can hear it like I did. That sounds so good. I don't care what anybody says. That sounds gnarly. Okay, so that's it. You've heard it run. You got my opinions on it. Before I go, though, I do want to say, hit that like button if you haven't already. If you liked this video and it was valuable to you and you enjoyed it, click that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We are updating constantly with new stuff. We're always working to bring you guys new content continuously on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. And if you want to know when a new video comes out, if you want to be immediately notified every time a new video is uploaded, click the bell, turn the bell on, and you'll immediately get notified. So those are the 3 important things from our perspective. If you guys appreciate this, make sure you comment. Let us know what you think, the answer to my question, and if you guys have any suggestions for how we do these videos, we're always open to suggestions and we're always listening. We do try and read every comment we possibly can and respond to the ones that we can respond to. So that's it. And until next time, thanks for watching.